From an ESG point of view, I think the industry will look completely different. 2030, most of the banks and asset managers are green financial players in the world, because not only from the fact that it's good for the business, but it's also because it will be needed. You have to bear in mind that most of the transition that we all want to achieve when it comes to sustainability needs to also come with help from financial industry. We need to reallocate capital. So right now the question is, how sustainable is financial sector? 2030, it will be how much does financial sector contribute to sustainable development. So in 2030 you will have no talks about sustainable finance. Sustainable finance will be something that we did in the history. It will be just a normal banking services that will include all of these things per definition. And what are the sort of interest rates you can get in the future? That will be what is your climate sort of a profile, how much do you contribute to sustainable development. These are your slips and your sort of receipts from your climate footprints of the stuff that you buy. All of these things will be part of the 2030 sort of a scenario. There is a huge difference between the millennials and the older generation. And I think it comes out of the two things. One is that they clearly understand that they are probably the first generation to realize that we do have a serious issue related to sustainability and climate in particular. And they also realize they are probably the last generation that will be able to solve it by the changes of their behavior. So I can see that from the people that work in my team and work with me that are millennials. They have different views from people that are older. So I think they will, of course, change the landscape a lot going forward. One of the problems today is that the sort of banking services or insurance services are not on the platforms where these people spend a lot of time. So you need to sort of change the platforms. And now all of us, we live in it's almost like a tunnels. We have our own tunnels that we live in. And a tunnel is this particular channel, social media channel that I use all the time. So banks have difficulties to access these channels with their traditional offering because they're just not suited to be there. That's why the new players, I mean the social media players, the fintech companies, their ability to provide these channels with these services will also challenge the banks. So you will have a lot of a struggle for what segments of the market you're going to take. But if you want to attract the new clients, you need to meet them on the platforms where they are. And banks are not on these platforms. I also think you will see a lot of partnerships because the fintech companies or social media companies, they don't have a legal setups and capacity to do the banking, but they have access. So you will see a merger between the banking industry and the fintech and the social media industry. That will create completely new dynamics. You will have 2030 probably legislation where the companies and the CEOs of the companies will have the full responsibility for all the climate activities conducted by the company. They don't have that today. That's not part of the fiduciary duty. So you will have a legal obligation to companies and the CEOs to provide that type of information to customers, clients and investors, which will change the way how we integrate the information. That's not the case today.